Dr. Hana Kim pressed her face against the cold window of the space station and watched the alien ship approach. Her breath made small clouds on the glass as she stared at the massive vessel floating near Jupiter. The ship looked like nothing humans had ever built. It was made of crystal and bone, glowing with soft blue and green lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. Hana was 24 years old and worked as a language expert on the research station called Harmony. She had studied languages her whole life. She could speak 7 human languages perfectly and understood pieces of 12 others. But today she would hear something completely new. The alien ship had appeared 3 days ago. Earth's governments had been preparing for this moment for decades. First contact with beings from another world. Now it was finally happening. Hana walked quickly through the station's white corridors toward the main meeting room. Her small hands clutched a recording device and a notebook. She was not part of the official greeting team, but Captain Lee Dae-ho had allowed her to attend as an observer. Her job was to listen and learn. The meeting room was larger than most spaces on the station. A long metal table sat in the center with chairs for the human team. Across from them, special seats had been built for the alien visitors. No one knew exactly what they would look like. Captain Lee stood at the head of the table wearing his best uniform. He was a calm man in his 50s with kind eyes and gray hair. Next to him sat General Park So-jin, a serious woman who rarely smiled. She wore her military uniform with perfect precision. Around the table sat scientists, diplomats, and other important people from Earth. Hana found a small chair near the back wall. She was not important enough to sit at the main table, but she could see and hear everything from her spot. She opened her notebook and prepared to write down every sound the aliens made. The station's computer announced that the alien shuttle was docking. Everyone in the room became quiet. Hana felt her heart beating faster. This was the most important moment in human history. The doors opened with a soft hiss. 3 alien beings walked into the room and Hana gasped quietly. They were unlike anything she had imagined. The aliens looked like giant lizards that walked on 2 legs like humans. They were covered in scales that changed color as they moved. The scales shifted from deep green to bright gold in beautiful patterns. Their heads were longer than human heads, with sharp teeth visible when they opened their mouths. Small horns curved back from their foreheads. The tallest alien stepped forward. He was nearly 8 feet tall and moved with smooth confidence. His scales were the brightest gold color, and his eyes glowed like pieces of amber in sunlight. He wore no clothes, but silver and blue decorations were attached to his arms and chest. Behind him came 2 smaller aliens. One had darker scales with purple highlights. The other was covered in scales that looked like polished silver. All 3 had long tails that moved behind them as they walked. The tall alien spoke first. His voice came through small devices that the humans had prepared. The translator machines turned his words into English, but his real voice was deeper and more musical than the mechanical translation. "I am Ambassador Renth of the Vorthak people," the translator said in a flat, emotionless voice. "We come from the star system you call Kepler 442. We have traveled far to meet with your species." Captain Lee stood and bowed slightly. "Welcome, Ambassador Renth. I am Captain Lee Dae-ho, representing the people of Earth. We are honored by your visit." Hana listened carefully as the translator worked, but she also paid attention to the real sounds the aliens made. Their natural voices were beautiful and complex. They made musical tones and clicking sounds that the translation machines could not capture. Ambassador Renth gestured to his companions. "This is Science Leader Kelvon and Cultural Observer Thassa. We have come to evaluate your species for possible trade relationships." The word evaluate made Hana uncomfortable. It sounded like the aliens were testing humans rather than meeting them as equals. General Park leaned forward. "We hope to learn from each other and build friendship between our peoples." Ambassador Renth's scales shifted to a duller color. Through the translator, he said, "Your species shows promise, but you are still quite primitive. Your technology is basic, and your understanding of the universe is limited." Hana saw Captain Lee's jaw tighten, but he kept his voice polite. "We may be young compared to your civilization, but humans are eager to learn and grow." Science Leader Kelvon made a sound that the translator could not convert. It was a series of clicks and musical tones. Cultural Observer Thassa responded with similar sounds, and both aliens made noises that sounded almost like laughter. Hannah wrote down every sound in her notebook using a special system she had created for recording unknown languages. The sounds were unlike anything she had heard before, but they followed patterns. She could sense grammar and structure hidden in the music and clicks. Ambassador Renth continued speaking about trade possibilities. He mentioned that the Vorthak had materials that could help humans travel between stars. In exchange, they wanted access to Earth's biological diversity and mineral resources. But as he spoke, Hannah noticed that his tone through the translator remained condescending. He talked about humans the way adults might talk about clever children. The other two aliens made their clicking sounds whenever the ambassador mentioned human limitations. The meeting continued for 2 hours. The aliens described their vast civilization that spanned many star systems. They spoke of technologies that seemed like magic to human ears, ships that could cross the galaxy in days, medicine that could cure any disease, computers that could think faster than entire human populations. But through it all, Hannah heard the musical undertones of their real voices. She began to understand that the clicking and tonal variations were not random. They were part of the language itself. The translation machines were only capturing a small part of what the aliens were actually saying. As the meeting ended, Ambassador Renth announced that they would return in 3 days for more detailed discussions. The aliens stood and walked toward the door with smooth, graceful movements. Just before leaving, science leader Kelvon said something in their natural language. The sounds were quick and sharp, followed by the musical laughter from cultural observer Thassa. Ambassador Renth responded with deeper tones that sounded serious and disapproving. Hannah knew they were talking about humans, and she suspected it was not flattering. The translation machines had completely missed this entire conversation. After the aliens left, the human team began discussing what had happened. Everyone was excited about the possibility of advanced technology and space travel. But Hannah felt troubled by the aliens' attitude toward humanity. She looked down at her notebook filled with strange symbols representing alien sounds. In 3 days, the aliens would return, and Hannah had a feeling that understanding their real language might be more important than anyone realized. Hannah sat in her small room staring at pages of strange symbols. 3 days had passed since the aliens left, and she had not slept more than 2 hours each night. Her desk was covered with notebooks, computer screens, and recording devices. Empty coffee cups sat everywhere. Her friend Dr. Jun Woo-jin knocked on her door. He was worried about her. For 3 days she had barely eaten or spoken to anyone. All she did was work on the alien sounds. "Hannah, you need to eat something," Jun said as he entered her room. He carried a tray with rice, soup, and vegetables. "You cannot solve this puzzle if you make yourself sick." Hannah looked up from her work. Her eyes were red from staring at screens for too long. Her black hair was messy and tied back with a pencil. "I am close to something important, June. The alien language is not what everyone thinks." June set the food on her desk and moved some papers to make room. The translation computers have been working on their language for weeks. The best minds on Earth have studied the recordings. What can you find that they missed? Hannah played a recording of Ambassador Renth speaking. The mechanical translator voice said, "Your species shows promise, but remains primitive." But underneath the translation, the real alien voice made beautiful musical sounds with clicking noises. "Listen carefully," Hannah said, pointing to the sound waves on her screen. "The translator only understands the main vocal sounds, but look at these other patterns." She showed June 3 different colored lines on her computer. One line showed the sounds that came from the alien's mouth and throat. Another line showed deeper sounds that came from inside their chest. A third line showed the clicking noises. "I think they are speaking 3 languages at the same time," Hannah explained. "The computer only translates 1 layer. We are missing most of what they actually say." June looked at the patterns on the screen. As a scientist, he understood that Hannah might be right. But how could any creature speak 3 languages at once? It seems impossible. Hannah pulled up more recordings. She had isolated different types of sounds from hours of alien conversation. "Remember how they look. They have long throats and big chests. I think their bodies can make sounds in ways that humans cannot." She played another clip. This time it was science leader Kelvon making his clicking laughter after calling humans primitive. Hannah had separated the different sound layers. The clicks formed patterns like a secret code. The deep chest sounds created musical notes that went up and down. The throat sounds made the words that the computer translated. It is like they are singing, speaking, and tapping out messages all at the same time, Hana said. And I think each layer means something different. June sat down and listened to more recordings. He was starting to understand why Hana was so excited. What do you think the other layers say? Hana opened her notebook to pages covered with symbols and charts. I am not sure yet, but I have some ideas. The clicking sounds might show how certain they are about what they say. Fast clicks could mean they are very sure. Slow clicks might mean they are guessing. She pointed to another chart. The deep musical sounds might show emotion or social rank. When Ambassador Renth spoke, his deep tones were always low and strong. When the others responded, their tones were higher and more careful. June was amazed. You figured all this out in 3 days? I had help, Hana said. She pointed to books about human singing traditions from around the world. Do you remember when I studied traditional Korean singing? The breathing techniques and throat control I learned are similar to what the aliens might be doing. Hana stood up and demonstrated. She took a deep breath and made a low humming sound. From her chest while clicking her tongue and speaking words at the same time, it sounded strange and difficult. It is hard for humans because we are not built for it, she said. But maybe I can learn to make simple versions of their sounds. June looked worried. Hana, even if you are right about their language, learning it in 3 days is impossible. These aliens have been speaking this way their whole lives. Hana sat back down and looked at her computer screens. I know it sounds crazy, but look at what I have already figured out. She showed him a chart with dozens of sound combinations and their possible meanings. The clicking pattern that Kelvon made when he laughed at humans translates roughly to, obviously stupid creatures. The deep tones Ambassador Renth used when talking about trade agreements carried the meaning, dealing with inferior beings. And they were insulting us the whole time and our computers never knew. June felt angry when he heard this. They were making fun of humans while pretending to be polite? Yes, Hana said. And tomorrow they come back for more negotiations. Captain, Lee and General Park have no idea what the aliens really think of us. Hana turned to a fresh page in her notebook. I have identified 47 different clicking patterns and 31 musical tone combinations. I think I understand the basic grammar structure. If I can learn to make even simple versions of these sounds, maybe I can communicate with them directly. That is a big risk, June warned. What if you say something wrong? What if you accidentally insult them? Hana looked at her friend with determination. What if I say nothing and let them continue to mock humanity? These aliens have technology that could change everything for our people. But they will never share it if they think we are stupid animals. She picked up one of her recording devices and began practicing the alien sounds. Her first attempts were rough and awkward. Human throats were not designed for the complex musical tones. Her clicking sounds were too sharp and simple compared to the alien precision. But with each attempt, she got a little better. Years of language study had trained her ear for subtle sound differences. Her background in traditional singing gave her control over her breathing and vocal cords. June watched her practice for an hour. Slowly, her alien sounds became more recognizable. They were still clearly human attempts, but they followed the patterns she had identified. You are actually doing it, June said with amazement. You are learning to speak their language. Hana smiled for the first time in 3 days. Not fluently, and probably with a terrible accent, but maybe enough to surprise them. She looked at the clock on her computer. I have 18 hours before they return. I need to practice the most important phrases, especially the ones that show respect and intelligence. June finally convinced her to eat the food he had brought. As she ate, Hana continued making alien sounds between bites. The strange music and clicking filled her small room. What will you say to them? June asked. Hana thought carefully. Something simple but meaningful. Something that shows I understand their real language, not just the translated version. She practiced one phrase over and over. The sounds were beautiful and complex, with deep musical tones supporting clicks and throat sounds. To human ears, it sounded like an alien song. What does it mean? June asked. Hana smiled. It means your assessment appears to be incomplete. If I am right about their language, those words will shock them more than any human technology ever could. The second meeting began exactly like the first one. Ambassador Renth walked into the room with his golden scales gleaming under the bright lights. Science leader Kelvon and cultural observer Thassa followed behind him, their scales shifting colors as they moved. Hana sat in the same small chair near the back wall. But this time she felt different. Her throat was sore from practicing alien sounds for 18 hours straight. Her notebook was filled with new symbols and practice phrases. Most importantly, she understood what the aliens were really saying. Captain Lee welcomed the aliens with the same polite words as before. General Park sat stiffly in her chair, trying to look professional and strong. The other human officials smiled and nodded as Ambassador Renth began speaking about trade agreements. But Hana heard the real conversation happening underneath the translator's mechanical voice. Ambassador Renth's deep chest tones carried messages of boredom and superiority. His clicking patterns indicated that he considered this meeting a waste of time. We have reviewed your technological capabilities, the translator said as Ambassador Renth spoke. Your species may be suitable for basic resource extraction partnerships. The real meaning in his musical undertones was much worse. Hana understood that he was comparing humans to trained animals that could be useful for simple labor. Science leader Kelvon made his clicking sounds again. This time Hana knew exactly what he was saying. The patterns meant something like barely intelligent creatures and useful for manual work only. Cultural observer Thassa responded with her own clicks and musical tones. She was agreeing with Kelvon and adding that humans seemed too emotional and unpredictable for advanced cooperation. Hana felt anger building inside her chest. These aliens were discussing humanity like farmers talking about livestock. Meanwhile, the human officials had no idea they were being insulted so directly. The meeting continued for an hour. Ambassador Renth outlined possible trade deals where humans would mine materials and grow food for the Vorthak civilization. In return, humans would receive basic medical supplies and simple tools. Captain Lee tried to negotiate for better terms. We hope for technology sharing and educational exchanges. Our scientists are eager to learn from your advanced knowledge. Ambassador Renth's scales shifted to a duller color. Through the translator, he said, Your scientists lack the mental capacity for our advanced concepts. Simple trade arrangements are more appropriate for your developmental level. The hidden meaning in his real voice was even more insulting. Hana heard tones that suggested humans were like clever pets who had learned a few tricks. During a break in the negotiations, the three aliens moved to the large window that showed the view of space. They began talking among themselves in their natural language, thinking that no human could understand them. Science leader Kelvon spoke first. His clicks and musical tones carried clear meaning for Hana. He was saying that humans were even more primitive than their initial assessment had suggested. The clicks indicated high certainty about this judgment. Cultural observer Thassa agreed and added her own observations. Her musical tones suggested amusement at human attempts to appear intelligent. She compared human behavior to young animals trying to imitate their parents. But it was Ambassador Renth's response that made Hana's anger overflow. His deep tones and clicking patterns translated to something like useful work animals and suitable for basic labor tasks only. The musical undertones added cruel amusement, as if the idea of humans having real intelligence was a funny joke. Hana could not stay quiet any longer. She stood up from her chair and walked toward the alien delegation. Her heart was beating fast, but her mind was clear. She had practiced this moment dozens of times in her room. The aliens noticed her approaching but did not stop their conversation. They probably thought she was just another curious human who wanted to look at them more closely. Hana stopped a few feet away from science leader Kelvon. She took a deep breath, used the vocal techniques she had learned from traditional Korean singing, and spoke directly to him in perfect Vorthak language. Her voice produced the complex musical tones from her chest. Her tongue created the precise clicking patterns. Her throat made the primary vocal sounds that carried the literal meaning. All three layers worked together to form complete alien words. Your assessment of human cognitive abilities appears to be based on insufficient data, she said in their own language. The effect was immediate and dramatic. All three aliens turned toward her with expressions of complete shock. Their scales flashed through bright colors that Hana recognized as signs of extreme surprise and alarm. Science leader Kelvon dropped the small device he had been holding. It clattered on the metal floor of the station. Cultural observer Thassa made a strangled sound that needed no translation. Her scales went completely white, which Hana had learned meant fear or disbelief. Ambassador Renth stared at her with his golden eyes wide open. His mouth hung open, showing his sharp teeth. For several seconds, none of the aliens moved or made any sound. The human officials looked confused. Captain Lee and General Park could see that something important had happened, but they had no idea what Hana had said to cause such a strong reaction. Ambassador Renth was the first to recover from the shock. He switched to heavily accented English, speaking directly to Hana instead of using the translation device. "How do you know the sacred resonance?" he demanded. His voice was much deeper and more musical than the mechanical translator had suggested. No inferior species should be capable of producing the harmony of understanding. Hana realized that their language was not just communication to the Vorthak. It was something sacred and special. The fact that she could speak it changed everything about how they saw her. Captain Lee stood up from his chair. "Dr. Kim, what did you say to them? What is happening?" But before Hana could answer, science leader Kelvin began speaking rapidly in Vorthak. His clicks and tones carried intense curiosity and disbelief. He was asking how a primitive human could possibly master their sacred language. Cultural observer Thassa joined the conversation, her musical tones full of wonder and confusion. She wanted to know if Hana was using some kind of technology to fake the sounds. Hana responded to both of them in careful Vorthak. She explained that she had studied their language patterns and learned to produce the sounds using natural human vocal abilities. Her grammar was not perfect, but her meaning was clear. The aliens exchanged rapid conversation among themselves. Their scales continued flashing bright colors of excitement and amazement. Ambassador Renth's deep tones carried notes of respect that had never been present before. General Park leaned forward in her chair. "Someone needs to explain what is happening right now." Ambassador Renth turned to face the human delegation. His entire posture had changed. Instead of looking down at the humans with condescension, he was studying them with new interest and respect. "This young human has accomplished something that should be impossible," he said in his accented English. "She has learned to speak our sacred language. This changes our understanding of your species completely." Hana felt a mixture of pride and nervousness as every eye in the room focused on her. She had proven that humans were more capable than the aliens believed, but she also knew that this was just the beginning of something much bigger. The conference room remained silent for what felt like forever. Ambassador Renth stood perfectly still, staring at Hana with his golden eyes. Science leader Kelvon and cultural observer Thassa whispered to each other in rapid Vorthak, their scales flashing bright colors of amazement. Captain Lee broke the silence first. "Dr. Kim, can you please explain what just happened? What did you say to them?" Hana felt nervous with everyone looking at her. She had spent 3 days learning the alien language in secret. Now she had to explain her discovery to the most important people on the space station. "I told them that their assessment of human intelligence was based on incomplete information," Hana said quietly. "But I said it in their own language, not English." General Park leaned forward in her chair. "You learned their language? In 3 days? Our best computers have been working on it for weeks." "The computers were only translating part of their communication," Hana explained. "The Vorthak speak on 3 different levels at the same time. The translation machines only understood one level." Ambassador Renth stepped closer to Hana. His massive height made her feel very small, but his expression was no longer condescending. Instead, he looked at her with curiosity and something that might have been respect. "Tell me, young human, how did you decode the sacred resonance?" he asked in his heavily accented English. "Our language requires mental coordination that takes our own children decades to master." Hana took a deep breath before answering. "I studied the sound patterns in your recordings. I noticed that you make 3 types of sound simultaneously: deep musical tones from your chest, clicking patterns with your tongue, and regular vocal sounds from your throat." She pointed to her notebook filled with symbols and charts. Each layer carries different meanings. The chest tones show emotion and social status. The clicking patterns indicate certainty levels in relationships. The throat sounds carry the literal words. Science leader Kelvon made excited clicking sounds and spoke in rapid Vorthak. Hana understood most of what he said. He was asking how she had learned to produce the sounds physically. Hana responded in careful Vorthak, explaining her background in traditional human singing and breathing techniques. Her pronunciation was not perfect, but her meaning was clear. She told him that human vocal abilities were more flexible than the aliens had realized. Cultural observer Thassa joined the conversation in Vorthak. She wanted to know if other humans could learn their language or if Hana was unique. Her musical tones carried notes of genuine scientific curiosity. She asks if other humans can do what you have done. Ambassador Renth translated for the confused human officials. Hana thought carefully before answering in both Vorthak and English. I believe some humans could learn basic communication in your language. It would be very difficult and require extensive training, but human minds are more adaptable than you assumed. The three aliens exchanged rapid conversation among themselves. Their scales continued flashing bright colors, and their musical tones carried excitement that Hana could clearly understand. They were discussing how this discovery changed their understanding of humanity. Captain Lee stood up and addressed Ambassador Renth directly. What does this mean for our negotiations? How does Dr. Kim's achievement affect the trade agreements we have been discussing? Ambassador Renth was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried a weight and seriousness that had not been present before. Captain Lee, you must understand the significance of what has occurred here. In our exploration of the galaxy, we have encountered hundreds of species. Only 3 races besides our own have ever been able to learn the sacred resonance. He gestured toward Hana with one of his clawed hands. Those 3 species are now our closest allies and trading partners. They have access to our most advanced technologies and are considered equal members of our galactic community. General Park's eyes widened. Are you saying that Dr. Kim's linguistic ability could change humanity's status in your civilization? I am saying that your species may be far more capable than our initial assessments indicated, Ambassador Renth replied. The ability to master our language requires not just intelligence, but a type of mental flexibility that is extremely rare. Cultural observer Thassa spoke in Vorthak, and Ambassador Renth nodded in agreement. Cultural observer Thassa suggests that we conduct more extensive testing with Dr. Kim. We need to understand the full extent of human cognitive abilities. Hana felt both excited and nervous about this proposal. What kind of testing? She asked. Science leader Kelvon answered in Vorthak, his clicks and tones indicating enthusiasm and scientific curiosity. He wanted to test her ability to learn advanced concepts in their language, including cultural and philosophical ideas that were never shared with primitive species. He proposes to teach you concepts that our children learn in advanced education, Ambassador Renth explained. If you can understand these ideas, it would prove that humans are ready for true partnership, rather than simple trade agreements. Captain Lee looked amazed by this development. Dr. Kim, are you willing to participate in these tests? This could be incredibly important for all of humanity. Hana nodded without hesitation. Yes, I want to learn everything I can. If this helps prove that humans are intelligent partners rather than primitive laborers, then I will do whatever is necessary. Ambassador Renth's scales shifted to warmer colors that Hana recognized as approval and respect. Very well. We will begin immediately. But first I must ask you a direct question in our language. He spoke in complex Vorthak, using advanced grammar structures that pushed Hana's understanding to its limits. His musical tones and clicking patterns created layers of meaning that were difficult to follow. But she understood the core of his question. He was asking whether she had learned their language to spy on them or to prove human intelligence. The undertones indicated that her answer would determine how the aliens proceeded. Hana responded in the most formal Vorthak she could manage. She explained that she had learned their language because she believed humans and Vorthak could be true partners if they understood each other completely. Her musical tones carried sincerity and hope. Science leader Kelvon and cultural observer Thassa both made clicking sounds that indicated approval and agreement. Ambassador Renth's deep chest tones carried notes of satisfaction. Your honesty is appreciated, he said in English. We will proceed with the advanced testing. But I must warn you, the concepts we will share have never been taught to a species at your developmental level. Hana smiled confidently. 3 days ago, you thought humans could not learn your language at all. Maybe it is time to reconsider what humans can accomplish. For the first time since arriving at the space station, Ambassador Renth made sounds that could only be described as laughter. His musical tones carried genuine amusement and growing respect. Indeed, young human, perhaps it is time for us to reassess many of our assumptions about your remarkable species. The next week changed everything for Hana and the space station. Ambassador Renth had requested that special teachers be brought from the Vorthak homeworld to conduct advanced tests with her. 3 more alien ships arrived, carrying the finest linguistic experts and cultural teachers of their civilization. Hana found herself in a completely new routine. Every morning she met with different Vorthak specialists in a large room that had been converted into a classroom. The aliens had brought strange devices that projected 3-dimensional images and created complex sound patterns to help with her education. Dr. Junwoo Jin helped document everything that happened during these sessions. He recorded her conversations with the aliens and took notes on her learning progress. Captain Lee and General Park observed many of the lessons, amazed by what they witnessed. The first major test came from Master Teacher Valeth, an ancient Vorthak with silver scales and wise golden eyes. She spoke to Hana in the most complex version of their language that existed. Her musical tones carried philosophical concepts that most young Vorthak could not understand. Tell me, young human, what is the relationship between knowledge and wisdom in your understanding? Master Teacher Valeth asked in advanced Vorthak. Hana had to think carefully before responding. The question was not just about vocabulary, but about deep concepts that required cultural understanding. She answered in careful Vorthak, explaining that humans believed knowledge was information, while wisdom was knowing how to use that information well. Master Teacher Veleth's scales brightened with approval. Her clicking patterns indicated surprise and respect. She had expected a much simpler answer from a species that the Vorthak had considered primitive. The second test came from Science Master Korveth, who challenged Hana to learn mathematical concepts expressed entirely in Vorthak language. These were not simple numbers but complex ideas about space, time, and the nature of reality itself. Hana struggled with these lessons at first. The concepts were difficult even when explained in English. But she discovered that the musical tones of Vorthak language actually helped her understand the mathematical relationships. The harmonic patterns matched the mathematical structures in ways that made learning easier. Within 3 days, she was solving problems that normally took Vorthak students months to master. Science Master Korveth reported to Ambassador Renth that her learning speed was extraordinary, even by the standards of advanced species. Cultural expert Thassara presented the most challenging test of all. She taught Hana about Vorthak history, philosophy, and social customs using only their sacred language. These lessons included concepts that had never been shared with species outside their closest allies. Hana learned about the Great Journey, when the Vorthak first traveled between stars. She understood the philosophy of harmonic balance, which guided their interactions with other species. Most importantly, she grasped the sacred trust, which was their highest form of friendship and cooperation between civilizations. During one particularly intense lesson, cultural expert Thassara spoke about the Vorthak understanding of intelligence itself. In their language, there were 17 different words for various types of thinking and learning. Hana discovered that her rapid language acquisition represented a form of intelligence that the Vorthak considered extremely valuable. Your mind works in patterns that we recognize as highly advanced. Cultural expert Thassara explained in complex Vorthak. The way you connect sound, meaning, and emotion shows a type of thinking that we have only seen in our greatest scholars. But the most significant development came when Hana began creating original thoughts in Vorthak, rather than just responding to questions. She started expressing ideas about human culture and philosophy, using their sacred language. Her musical tones carried concepts that had never been translated from human thought into Vorthak communication. Ambassador Renth observed one of these sessions where Hana explained human concepts of creativity and artistic expression. She used advanced Vorthak grammar to describe how humans created beauty through music, painting, and storytelling. Her explanation was so clear and compelling that several Vorthak teachers requested copies of the recording to study. This is remarkable, Ambassador Renth told Captain Lee after the session. She is not just learning our language. She is expanding it with new concepts from human experience. This level of linguistic creativity is something we have only seen in species with centuries of advanced development. Dr. June documented everything and worked with Hana to create a framework that other humans might use to begin learning Vorthak language. They discovered that her background in traditional Korean singing had been crucial to her success. The breathing techniques and vocal control gave her abilities that most humans did not possess naturally. But they also found that other humans with musical training or language learning experience could potentially develop similar skills with enough practice and dedication. This discovery excited both the human and Vorthak observers. Cultural observer Thassa, who had initially been the most skeptical about human intelligence, became one of Hana's strongest supporters. She began teaching Hana advanced cultural concepts that were normally reserved for diplomatic exchanges between equal civilizations. Your species has qualities that we did not recognize, cultural observer Thassa told Hana in intimate Vorthak during one of their private conversations. The flexibility of human minds and your capacity for rapid adaptation may actually exceed our own abilities in some areas. The testing also revealed something unexpected about human cognitive abilities. While Vorthak minds were excellent at processing complex harmonic patterns, human brains showed superior ability to make creative connections between unrelated concepts. This made humans naturally gifted at learning and adapting to completely alien ways of thinking. Science leader. Kelvon reported that Hana's brain activity during language learning showed patterns that were unique among all the species they had studied. Her neural pathways created new connections at speeds that impressed even their most advanced scientists. By the end of the week, Hana was conversing fluently with the Vorthak teachers about subjects that had never been discussed between humans and aliens. She understood their scientific theories, philosophical frameworks, and cultural values with a depth that amazed everyone involved. Ambassador Renth called a special meeting with Captain Lee and General Park to discuss the implications of what had been discovered. Your Dr. Kim has achieved something unprecedented, he announced. Not only has she mastered our sacred language, but she has demonstrated cognitive abilities that place humanity among the most promising species we have ever encountered. He paused to let this information settle before continuing. We must now reconsider everything about our relationship with your civilization. Dr. Kim has proven that humans are not primitive creatures in need of guidance. You are potential partners worthy of our highest respect and cooperation. Captain Lee could hardly believe what he was hearing. 1 week ago, the aliens had considered humans barely intelligent enough for basic labor. Now they were talking about partnership and respect. What does this mean for humanity's future? General Park asked. Ambassador Renth's scales shifted to the brightest gold they had ever seen. It means that your species may be invited to join the most exclusive alliance in our region of the galaxy. But that decision will require approval from the highest levels of our government. 3 days later, Ambassador Renth requested one final meeting in the main conference room. But this time everything was different. Instead of sitting across from the humans like judges evaluating subjects, the Vorthak delegates arranged their chairs to form a circle with the human representatives. Hana sat between Captain Lee and Ambassador Renth, no longer relegated to the back of the room. She wore a special device that cultural expert Thassa had given her called a harmony amplifier. The crystal pendant helped her produce the most complex Vorthak tones and made her speech even clearer to alien ears. Dr. June sat nearby with his recording equipment, but now he was documenting a historic moment rather than just observing first contact. General Park and the other human officials looked excited and nervous as they waited to hear what the aliens had decided. Ambassador Renth stood and spoke in formal Vorthak before switching to English. Hana translated his opening words for the humans present. He said that today marks a new chapter in the relationship between our species, she explained. The formal testing period is complete, and the results have been sent to the Vorthak High Council. Ambassador Renth nodded approvingly at her translation before continuing in English. The High Council has reviewed all documentation of Dr. Kim's achievements. They have also studied the recordings of her conversations with our most respected teachers and cultural experts. He paused dramatically, his golden scales shifting to brighter colors. The decision has been unanimous. Humanity is hereby invited to join the Vorthak Concordat as provisional members. Captain Lee stood up so quickly that his chair nearly fell over. What exactly does that mean for our people? Cultural expert Thasara answered in Vorthak, and Hana translated with growing excitement. It means access to the galactic communication network that connects dozens of advanced civilizations. It means sharing of medical knowledge that could eliminate most human diseases. It means educational exchanges and technological cooperation. Science Master Korveth added his own explanation in rapid Vorthak. Hana listened carefully before translating. Most importantly, it means protection under interstellar law. No hostile species will be allowed to threaten Earth while we are members of the Concordat. General Park leaned forward with obvious interest. What are the requirements for this membership? What does humanity need to provide in return? Ambassador Renth smiled, an expression that looked strange but warm on his reptilian features. The primary requirement has already been fulfilled. Dr. Kim has proven that humans possess the cognitive flexibility and cultural adaptability that we value most in our allies. He gestured toward Hana with obvious respect. However, we do have one specific request. We would like Dr. Kim to serve as the first human linguistic ambassador. She would travel to different worlds in our territory and help establish communication protocols with other species. Hana felt her heart racing as she realized the magnitude of what was being offered. I would be honored to accept that role, she said in perfect Vorthak before repeating it in English. Master Teacher Valeth spoke in formal Vorthak, her ancient voice carrying centuries of wisdom. Hana translated her words with reverence. She says that I will be remembered in Vorthak history as the one who opened the door between our civilizations. The title Human Harmony Speaker will be mine forever. Cultural observer Thassa, who had laughed at humanity just 2 weeks ago, now spoke with genuine warmth and respect. Her musical tones carried friendship and admiration as she addressed Hana directly in Vorthak. What did she say? Captain Lee asked. Hana smiled as she translated. She said that my achievement has already become legendary among the Concordat species. The story of the human who learned the sacred resonance in 3 days is being told on worlds throughout their territory. Dr. June raised his hand tentatively. What about other humans? Can we send students to learn from Vorthak teachers? Science leader Kelvin answered enthusiastically in Vorthak. Hana translated his excited response. He says that exchange programs will begin immediately. Human students with language and music backgrounds will be invited to study on Vorthak worlds. In return, they want to send their young scholars to Earth to learn about human creativity and adaptability. Ambassador Renth retrieved a crystal device from his ceremonial pouch. The object was beautiful, glowing with soft blue light and resonating with musical tones when he held it. This is a harmony stone, he explained in English. It is given only to species that have mastered our sacred language. Dr. Kim is the first human to receive this honor. He placed the crystal in Hana's hands. The moment she touched it, the device began glowing brighter and producing harmonious sounds that filled the room. Her natural voice combined with the crystal's amplification to create music that was beautiful beyond anything the humans had ever heard. Harmony Stone will help you communicate with any species in the Concordat, Ambassador Renth explained. It contains translation protocols for 17 different languages and will amplify your natural linguistic abilities. Hana spoke a few words in Vorthak while holding the crystal. Her voice became incredibly clear and musical, with harmonic overtones that seemed to touch everyone's emotions directly. Even the humans who could not understand the words felt moved by the beauty of the sound. Cultural expert Thasara stood and addressed the entire group in both Vorthak and English. Dr. Kim's achievement represents more than individual brilliance. She has shown us that humanity possesses qualities we had not recognized. Your species' capacity for rapid learning, creative thinking, and cultural adaptation may actually exceed our own in some areas. She looked directly at Hana with respect that bordered on awe. We came here expecting to find useful but limited beings. Instead, we discovered partners who may teach us as much as we teach them. Ambassador Renth made a formal announcement in Vorthak that filled the room with ceremonial music and clicking patterns. Hana translated the ancient words with tears of joy in her eyes. By the authority of the High Council and the sacred trust of the Concordat, humanity is welcomed into the galactic community. May this partnership bring wisdom, prosperity, and harmony to both our peoples for generations to come. The meeting concluded with a ceremony that mixed human and Vorthak traditions. Captain Lee and Ambassador Renth shook hands while Hana and the alien cultural experts exchanged harmonious songs in both languages. As the aliens prepared to depart for their homeworld, cultural observer Thassa spoke privately with Hana in intimate Vorthok. Her words carried deep emotion and respect. What did she say? Dr. June asked after Thassa had left. Hana wiped tears from her eyes as she answered. She said that sometimes the smallest actions create the greatest changes. 3 days of studying their language recordings has changed the course of human history. Standing at the observation window, Hana watched the Vorthak ships prepare for their journey home. The Harmony Stone glowed softly in her hands, connecting her to a vast network of civilizations she had never imagined. Captain Lee joined her at the window. Are you ready for this responsibility, Dr. Kim? You are about to become humanity's voice in the galaxy. Hana smiled as she looked out at the stars that no longer seemed cold and distant. Somewhere among those points of light were worlds where humans would be welcomed as equals, species eager to learn from Earth's unique perspective, and opportunities beyond anything their civilization had ever dreamed. I am ready, she said confidently. 1 week ago we thought we were alone in the universe. Now we know that we belong among the stars. The alien ships disappeared into hyperspace, but they left behind something far more valuable than any technology. They had given humanity proof that intelligence, determination, and the courage to reach across impossible barriers could transform the future in ways that no one had ever imagined. Dr. Hana Kim, the young woman who had learned an alien language in 3 days, had become the bridge between worlds and the herald of humanity's greatest adventure.